And this spike protein, here's a vessel from the lung. All that brown and this big space in the middle here, that's all spike protein, not only lining the vessel, but filling this clot itself. Because the spike protein binds to a certain type of protein receptor on your white blood cells, red blood cells, platelets, blood vessel lining. Now this is all science that was known before these were ever formulated. And this is the type of science one does for years before bringing a product to market. And then when you see how many millions upon millions of people showed up very quickly in the adverse event reporting systems around the world, you pull that product from the market. Instead of having John Legend on the NCAA final basketball game advertising to get a booster for 3 variants of a virus that are now extinct for a shot that has expired. Think about that. Wuhan went extinct in humanity, that variant, over 2 years ago. BA4 and BA5 are gone. The shots are formulated for those now. We're on multiple variants on from there. So now we have expired shots for extinct variants, and we still have people losing their jobs because they won't, or not being able to go to university because they won't get a shot they don't need for a virus that no longer exists. Does that make any sense whatsoever? This is that unusual material that aggregates out of these clots. This was an interesting patient, one of Dr. Burkhart's patients. Anytime that she got below 24 Celsius, her fingers would start to hurt. They drew her blood, and she was triple jabbed, and then that would start to precipitate out of her serum. And again, that's an amyloid-like protein that doesn't break down very easily. So they'll say, oh gosh, clot shot. No, it doesn't cause clots. Well, ask this pilot who had this large pulmonary embolus. That is the arterial tree of the lungs. Now, clots are we use all sorts of food analogies in pathology, are generally like grape jelly-like. They're not solid. They don't hold together strongly. That entire clot pulled out of this pilot, and he's alive, thankfully. And this was after his first shot. This internal medicine physician is also luckily alive because when he had his acute moment, he was in the hospital and went to surgery very quickly. But that came out in one giant piece. The spike protein induces clotting, straight up, period, no questions. It does. It's a known mechanism of harm of the spike protein. Both of the virus originally as well, but we saw a whole lot more clotting after these shots rolled out. Because more spike protein is made for a longer period of time after the shots. A normal viral infection, your body generally will clear it out in a couple of weeks for an immune competent individual. I'll move ahead, I won't get too sciencey here. Lots of papers, Dr. Pretorius out of South Africa, she's shown you can take platelets out of the plasma, and in the absence of platelets, those are the little micro band-aids that patch up when you scrape your knee or whatever. In the absence of platelets, the spike protein will still cause other proteins to clump and form odd clots. So this is science. And what about the heart? We hear a lot about myocarditis, certainly. And that was, low risk myocarditis. And then our CDC lies to the American people and says, COVID caused myocarditis far more than a shot. But absolute data lie that goes back to what Pierre was talking about, that they just cover up information, they present it in nefarious ways, so you don't know the scientific truth. A lot of young athletes are dropping dead on the fields around the world because they have spike protein in their hearts. So on the left here, all that blue, those are inflammatory cells in the heart. Those don't belong there. This is what normal heart should look like, nice and fresh and pink. But what happens after all this inflammation? You hear the word mild myocarditis, right? Oh, it's just mild myocarditis. Well, that never happened historically in medicine before. Myocarditis is a serious condition. You don't stratify it as mild, moderate, severe. Myocarditis is inflammation of the heart. And what happens after inflammation of the heart is this. See all that blue material? That is scars starting to form. So when you're told, oh, don't worry, you'll recover, you're fine. No, you're not. In children, What was their survival rate for COVID? 99.997%. Once Omicron came along, 99.99997%. And yet they say these children need a shot. And yet this is the risk factor for a lifetime to their heart? No way. No way. The cells don't lie. And here you can see on the left, here's the special stains we use in the laboratory. On the left, that's spike protein. On the right, we do a control. That's nucleocapsid. This was not virus. This was vaccinally induced damage to the heart. The cells don't like me. I don't care. You don't have to like me. But the cells are telling the truth. Same thing here. More spike protein in the heart where it doesn't belong. Oh, and this young man actually had some of that amyloid in the vessels of the heart in addition to spike protein in the heart. These are all injurious proteins that are in the wrong place. Check for myocarditis, you should be. So, everybody hears about the heart damage. Well, what about neurologic damage? What about brain fog? What about memory care homes where we see persons go downhill by 30-40% after the shots? Got my 10-minute warning here. I'm doing okay. Well, here we have neural tissue. This is brain tissue. And these are the vessels of the brain. This is Dr. Moore's out of Germany. And he did this study. And here you see all that brown, that spike protein, not only in the vessels of the brain, but creeping out into the tissues of the brain. And then inflammation follows. Inflammation follows. Spike protein does not belong in the brain. And this is one I got from a patient in Australia. See those holes? This is what we call spongiform encephalopathy. Anybody ever heard of mad cow disease? Yeah. Well, we shouldn't see this, but this patient, after his shot, developed neurologic complications and passed away fairly quickly. And this protein, this spike protein, has a special ability to fold, and I won't go into prion biology, but we shouldn't see Swiss cheese holes in the brain of a 34-year-old. And Luc Montagnier, the Nobel Prize winner before he passed, he had documented almost 30 cases of Creutzfeldt-Jakob mad cow disease post-vaccine around the world. There's one more to add to the case series. This is a dangerous protein that doesn't belong in the human body. Again, I'm not here to scare you, just say, don't get another one, please. And don't let anybody in your family get another one, please. On that last picture, it's just showing in that same brain we found spike protein in the neurons. Here's the peripheral nerves. That's spike protein in the peripheral nerves. How many people have burning, stinging neuropathy? This is why. The spike, that lipid nanoparticle loves to go to fatty tissues. The wrapping of your nerves is a very fatty tissue, that myelin sheath. And that lipid goes to it, sticks to it. Now the spike protein grabs onto those cells and uses those cells as a replication factory. What about other organ damage? Okay. We do have other organ damage. That spike protein will damage the liver. That spike protein will damage the kidneys. The spike protein will, oh, let's put that one in there too soon. Oh, okay, I know what I did there. Anyway, we'll go back. Spike protein will go to the adrenal glands as well. And I've got a picture coming of that. Viral reactivation, I already mentioned that. Spike protein can cause all sorts of changes to pattern receptors in your body. So a lot of the chronic fatigue, if you're chronically fatigued after the shots, get checked for reactivated Epstein-Barr virus, mononucleosis. That's so important to check. And I have a colleague in Texas, about 50% of his vaccine-injured patients had reactivated mono. And we're seeing a lot of that chronically. Then the other problem too, getting a shot like this, it's like putting blinders on a horse. Your body is looking for that original spike protein from the original virus to the detriment of being able to recognize a coronavirus in the future. We call this immune imprinting or antibody-dependent enhancement, because when you get the disease a second time and it's a new variant, your immune system overreacts in a different way because the virus piggybacks and Trojan horses into immune cells where it doesn't belong. So this is another problem. These are all problems. This was in a congressional hearing in March or April of 2020 when they were talking about Operation Warp Speed. They knew about this. They knew about this. They said this could be a problem. And they went ahead anyway. and used the wrong virus for the shots. Autoimmune disease, it's your body attacking and eating itself. Plenty of cases in the literature on that. Here we go, adrenal glands. So your adrenal glands are responsible for so much function in your body. It's your fight or flight response, it's your adrenaline, it regulates blood sugar, regulates your potassium. Anybody hear about POTS syndrome, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome? Big problem after the shots. Here's why. That spike protein in the adrenals, that spike protein, all that brown in the adrenal glands. All of a sudden your adrenals aren't functioning normally. I'll answer one of the Q&As now. SIADH, yes. Why? Adrenals. The spike protein is going to the adrenal glands. In everybody? No. And this is the thing, is we didn't do all these studies before we rolled it out onto humanity. The mice wouldn't volunteer to do it, they knew it could be dangerous. Here's another patient. Not only in the adrenal cortex, but in the adrenal medulla, spike protein. The cells don't lie. Uh-oh, what about reproductive harms? Safe and effective. Don't worry about it, right? Oh, here's a placenta. See all that brown? What is that? Spike protein. Oh goodness, here's the endometrium, the lining of the uterus. What's all that brown? Oh, these aren't the droids you're looking for, don't worry about it. Spike protein. Oh, this young man, 28 years old, deceased, post-injection. These are his testes. These are the gametes. See all the brown? That's a foreign protein, it doesn't belong there. This deceased 85-year-old. Testes, spike protein. So be advised that unvaxxed sperm will be the next Bitcoin. Uh-oh. About the monster in the room here. This is the one that people don't want to hear about that everybody's heard about, and that's cancer. And I met Dr. McLeish over in the UK recently, and he's a practicing oncologist, has been for almost 40 years. He has seen rates of cancer in his clinic and practice after the rollout of the shots that are mind-numbing. And it takes 3, 4, 6 months to get into clinic now because they're so backlogged. Somebody asked me to put this article up, so I did. The spike protein binds to the p53 tumor suppressor family of genes. And this is a family that regulates cell division, replication, and suppresses tumors. But when the spike protein binds to it, now you lose regulatory pathways in the body. Here's a lymphoma in the stomach. All that blue, those are all one clone, that's a malignant clone of a lymphoma. And guess what's in every lymphoma cell? Spike protein. What about this patient that she's still alive, I don't know for how much longer, this is her pancreas, all that pink, and all those little circles, those are the tumor cells, those glands, those circles, pancreatic adenocarcinoma, and every single one of those cells was also expressing spike protein under the microscope. The cells don't lie. I want to be wrong. I would love to be wrong. But this is what's happening. And this is what your public health officials should be sharing and allowing on every major media station in every country in the world. Houston, we have a problem. Oh, and then what happened? Well, now the information's coming out. The Therapeutics Good agency in Australia, recently we showed that lipid nanoparticle goes everywhere. The EMA, both agencies, the European Medicines Agency and the TGA, they knew how impure the content of the vials was early on. They were warned. And they said, we'll just lower the standards then. You know, it's supposed to be 80+% pure, really 99% pure. They're like, well, it's only 50% RNA. That means there's a lot of fragmented RNA in these vials. And of course, it took some investigating and leaking to get the documents, but we have the documents. Well, what do microfragments of RNA do? They're a known carcinogen. They cause cancer as well. And then the question is, the spike protein is supposed to be a certain weight, 141 kilodaltons. What's fascinating in some of the BioNTech studies, right here, there is 190 kilodalton protein and 100 kilodalton protein, but there's nothing in the middle at 141 that's supposed to be the weight of a spike protein. So what's the body making? Not the appropriate protein all the time. And then all those little fragments of RNA, what are all these other proteins that the body's making? And these were from transfected cell lines, so we know the cells are making a bunch of other proteins they're not supposed to be making, in addition to making some spike protein. But atypical foreign proteins can be carcinogenic as well and cause autoimmune disease. I'm sorry, but no one told the cells they weren't supposed to do that. So, mechanisms of cancer are many: gene mutations, a hypoxic environment from clots, chronic viral infections, which we know are reactivated, low interferon, which we know the spike protein does, decrease in cellular energy because of mitochondrial damage, which we know the spike protein does, loss of immune surveillance, which we know the spike protein causes, microRNAs, which we know are in the shots, hormone dysregulation, which we know is being caused based on where that spike protein is binding in the gonads. Toll-like receptor alterations, I won't get into that. And then the other thing that just came out when you read Kevin McCarran's scary Substack is the fact that old vaccines, we had a problem with another virus, SV40 virus, which in retrospect, we found out that virus caused a lot of different cancers over time as well. And guess what's in the Pfizer sequence? T-minus 2 minutes, folks, is the SV40 virus promoter region in these shots. Why in the world did Pfizer put a known carcinogenic viral promoter region in these shots? I don't know. All right, so here's a patient on the left. He had an angioblastic T-cell lymphoma. After his booster, this is the tumor burden on the right 3 weeks later. All those mechanisms I just listed, that's why you hear about turbo cancers. Here's the trend in cancer increasing from CDC data, from the ethical skeptic. He's got a great Substack as well, and as a great data analyst. Plenty of other harms. Bone marrow. So somebody, again, Q&A, I'm going to answer some of the questions now. Well, gosh, my white count is low. Why? Well, see all those little brown dots? This is from my lab. All those dots are spike protein in all the progenitor cells in your bone marrow. This patient actually isn't making any red blood cells at all. He's in his 20s, his father's a physician, and called and asked, will you stain his tissues and help me out? I said, yeah, well, here's why. His bone marrow is being destroyed by spike protein. And there's so many cell lines, T cells, natural killer cells, monocytes, being inhibited and destroyed by the spike protein. Oh, and guess what? Yeah, the mRNA also can last for at least 48 hours and get into breast milk. Now, also keep in mind that the agricultural industry, unregulated, wants to use mRNA shots in animals, pigs and cows. I don't drink much pig milk, I don't drink much cow milk either, but anyway, consider that it might end up showing up in the milk supply. Another regulatory thing you need to be very apprised of. Let's skip that one, because it just talks about the sequence integrating into your own DNA. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Even though in vitro it happens. Sudden death, you know, it's interesting. You know, we have fake pictures of people keeling over in the streets, dropping dead in China, caused a mass panic about a virus, but we have live pictures of fit young people dropping on sports fields around the world, and then there's nothing to worry about apparently. Yep, unexplained deaths becoming the #1 cause of death in 2022 in Canada, Australia, and Europe. And we can tell you how a mummy died 10,000 years ago, but we can't tell you what's causing all this sudden death now. Because these are not the droids you're looking for. And yeah, doctors and nurses pretending they have no idea why healthy young people are having strokes and attacks. Even Stevie Wonder knows why. And is there any mental illness in the family? Yes, my cousin thinks people are dropping dead from climate change. And of course, you know, it's your energy bill causing acute cardiac events, and it's temperature changes causing acute cardiac events, and, you know, killer heart disease from the soil. Just so many solar storms are causing heart attacks. Climate change, of course, is causing heart attacks. Yeah, there's your energy bill prices. Breathing too many times a day, don't do that. You know, that's causing heart attacks. Highly concerned about that. Don't shake your duvet too hard, because that's causing a lot of death as well. And moving your clock forward or backward, bad idea, causes heart attacks. And you know, some of these are my favorite. You know, 300,000 Brits living with stealth disease that could kill them within 5 years. Heart attack, the drink that could cause a cardiac catastrophe, e-cigarettes, and eating breakfast and bacon, and you know, skipping breakfast. You know, so it's eating breakfast, but skipping breakfast causes heart attacks. And then the one I worry about up here is cold weather. How does it affect your body from winter vagina to blood clots? I know what blood clots are. I don't know what the other thing is. I'm not sure I want to know. So be apprised that there are all sorts of things causing sudden death, but it's not that. And what Canadians need to, oh man, I'm in the land of snow shoveling death, aren't I? Don't shovel your drive if it snows again. That's all I'm saying. You've been warned. Call the 10-year-old next door, pay him 20 bucks. Yeah, but here we are, conspiracy theorists are just watching World Peach. People be catching up like, yeah, come on, you can join us now, we got the truth. And the cells don't lie. And here, you know, the new deadly Omicron variant has been named, it's called BS 24/7. So just be aware that that's coming as well. All right, so I'm gonna skip to the end here. You don't need your Pfizer cards. Here's where your football team loses, unfortunately, when your government destroys your business, your family, and your health. It's pretty bad. And this is the one, this is the one that perplexes me. And forgive me for asking the question, because I really don't want to offend, but really it's like, I'm non-GMO, I'm like pure, I live a, you know, clean life, you know, I'm as organic and earthy as I can. I'm really just a hippie with short hair. But, you know, I sure like me some, like, you know, multiple hits of synthetic, harmful, persistent industrial mRNA in my body, dude. Groovy, give me another shot. Doesn't make any sense, okay? All right, and this is not a choice, this is coercion. Your children are not lab rats, please protect them. To learn who rules over you, simply find out who you're not allowed to criticize. And, you know, if you think tough men are dangerous, wait till you find out what weak men are capable of. Daddy, what were you doing when the government took all my freedoms away? Oh, sorry, honey, I wore a muzzle, hid behind the sofa, and called anybody who spoke out against it a conspiracy theorist. I always end my talks with this one, and I prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery.
Amen.
I'll finish with this one, Glenn. The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. The opposite of art is not ugliness, it is indifference. The opposite of faith is not heresy, it is indifference. And the opposite of life is not death, it's indifference. Do not be indifferent. Stay engaged. If you can't read that in the back, may we all have the strength of this stool and the faith of this dog. Thank you very much.
By the way, that was my brood of 6 daughters.